So I've been playing Rule of Rose. Rape, pedophilia, child abuse, animal cruelty. Not really topics commonly expressed in video games. And there's a reason why. Apparently, Punchline's Rule of Rose is a survival horror game that features all of these themes in Axis, leading to a fairly rocky release. I mean, Sony didn't even want to touch the game as far as an American publication went, and in Europe, weird Japanese games localizer and possible Italian money laundering scheme 505 Games handled its release. That didn't stop people from completely losing their shit over it though. In France, for instance, the game was banned outright due to it, and I quote, featuring the goal to rape, beat up, and kill an innocent little girl. Damaging to Western society, they said. Following that, its releases in Australia and New Zealand were subsequently cancelled, and in Poland, the game was even taken into question as a possible crime, leading to the game getting slandered, destroyed, and taken off shelves in most every country thereafter. Could it really be that this game would be so vile, so intensely fucked up beyond belief, that it would reward players for violently raping and killing an innocent child? No. Of course not. Not sure exactly what happened, but people done fucked up big time, as the only ones being violent and horrible here are these filthy little monsters themselves. And yeah, there are some mild sexual themes, but I mean, I'm from Europe, and I've seen the art films that they make over here, and this shit ain't shit compared to movies like Irréversible, which does actually feature very graphic rape scenes and other genuinely fucked up shit. Also, Daft Punk worked on it as well. But in any case, the only one who's getting completely mullered in Rule of Rose is poor old Jennifer, our main protagonist.
Who's an adult, by the way?
Jennifer, on a rainy European-ass night, is riding the bus home, until some creepy British child is all like, "Hey lady, take a look at my shit." Naturally, she bolts after him, eventually stumbling across a spooky-looking orphanage. And upon enterage, she gets tied up, kidnapped, and taken aboard a lavishly decked-out airship where she's taken into the Aristocrat Club. Ooh. Now, this club is essentially a cynical take on a Peter Pan-style story. Instead of the kids having full control leading to fun adventures, it leads to the evil posh little fuckers bullying the inbreds. So, basically British culture in a nutshell. I quite love it though. It takes it to a bit of an extreme, but I honestly find this a lot more likely than the whole fun adventures thing. I mean, kids are honest enough as it is, so in dire hierarchical situations, I think shit'll go down south fast. The story overall is a bit reminiscent of older fairy tales as well. Which also highlights just how funny it is that what was once considered a children's bedtime story got this game fucking banned worldwide 10 or so years ago. But yeah, that's pretty much what this is. A sadistic, real as fuck, old-timey fairy tale, where everyone's really bitchy, miserable, sad, and dire. Now, those are its themes, and that's all well and great, but how does it go about presenting these? Is it mature in its execution? Is it well written, acted, paced, directed, and above all, is it artistic? Well, yeah. Surprisingly so, even. It might be a bit twisted and sick, but much like the fairy tales that it spawned from, also quite beautiful within that sickness. When on ship, for instance, you'll eventually be treated as just another passenger. Life goes on, and it starts coursing you into this soothing routine. It reminded me a lot of Silent Hill in that sense, where within its macabre and off-putting world, its relaxing and relatively calm demeanor still lulls you into a sense of comfort. Only to then be able to crush it later on whenever it wants to. It's a very cool little thing that really only horror can do, and Rule of Rose does it incredibly well. Anyway, the game is also structured and framed very much like a book would be, as it has descriptive text accompanying just about everything that happens. Which, granted, isn't a rare thing for a survival horror game to have, but its approach here is definitely a bit different. More than anything, it serves to make an already sad and bad situation seem even worse, constantly reminding you of how miserable Jennifer is and how shitty these little bullying bastards really are. Not to mention the overabundance of animal cruelty at display here, that really becomes just a tad extra disturbing when you're explained in detail how everyone involved felt at the time. As for the actual voice acting itself, however, some of the lines can be delivered a bit awkwardly. Though I will say that it kinda adds to the creepy British children vibe the game is already drenched with. And besides that, most of the leading ladies all have great performances and the mocap is fucking immaculate as well. All of which is topped off by a soundtrack that isn't only quite beautiful and eerie on its own, but also fits the game's art and themes perfectly. As far as the gameplay goes though, it's all fairly bog standard survival horror fare. You have the entire airship at your disposal among a few other smaller areas, and you'll mainly find yourself jogging back and forth between a couple of rooms, running errands, looking for items and unlocking doors as you go along. To aid you in this mess though is a wee doggo by the name of Brown, who you can give items to so he can sniff shit out using their scent. Which is a very cool concept on paper, but it essentially turns the entire game into a slow as fuck dog walking simulator. Now, you might think to yourself, but the dog searching for everything, I'm sure that's just an optional tool, right? Well, no. If fucking only. You see, quite often the items you're looking for aren't visible until you let Brown sniff the thing related to it. There is a bit of a puzzle element going on here where you need to know what item that is, and you're also required to use it in the right place. But more often than not, shit ain't that hard to figure out, and you can always brute force it by letting Brown sniff everything. It's broken, basically. All of it looks and sounds fucking great though. The way Jennifer trembles in fear, holding her hand, slowly pacing through the game's dimly lit areas, while violins shriek away into the background. It's really quite good. You'd think that would translate to it also controlling really well.
It doesn't.
Thing is that the game doesn't have tank controls, but still likes to Silent Hill the camera all over the place. That already makes basic movement and pixel hunting quite a pain in the... especially when paired with the rather odd collision. And during combat... shit plays about as smoothly as you might imagine melee combat to be in a game like Resident Evil. Fuck range, strength, or speed, just slowly whittle away at your enemies using a stick or a butter knife. That'd get your blood pumping! It does fit Jennifer's character though. She's scared, timid, rather frail, and overall quite helpless. So, no, I wouldn't expect her to pick up an AK and blast the shit out of some kids. But the combat is fucking satanic trash garbage. It is literally one of the worst parts of an otherwise okay good game I've ever had to sit through. I mean, it should not have to be this hard to hit a single fucking enemy. If the monsters were at least in part designed around the control sucking like in Silent Hill, it honestly wouldn't have been all that bad. Only they aren't, as all of them are fast, tiny, and come in large numbers so they can literally gank you into a corner and then stun lock you because of course, leaving you with very little room to actually fight back, given that you could even do so in the first place. However, in most cases, the combat is wholly avoidable. And I would assume that that's what they wanted you to do, but then why they decided to add not only rooms where you're locked in until you kill everything or enemies you can't really bypass, and fucking boss fights as well, is completely beyond me.
And oh my god, these fucking boss fights.
The bosses here do ridiculous amounts of damage, and healing items heal only a wee little bitty. Most of their hits are cheap as well because it's quite hard to dodge, or to position yourself properly to do some beating of your very own, which is great when combined with the stun locking. And dying, of course, takes you back to the title screen. Now, saving doesn't necessarily bear any penalties, but you do actually need to find a save point, and those can be very scarce. Which means that trial and erroring your way through the boss fights is not only broken and tedious, but also takes really, really long. Dying to a boss after not having saved for half an hour or so is a mistake you only make once. Except when you don't. But in any case, as a result of their OP-ness, you kinda need to farm for health items as it were, which is made easier by having Brown around. Give that Broheim a quick whiff of a cookie box, and he'll fish out cookies out of even the darkest of crannies. Though, you still have no way of knowing when a boss is about to appear, and it's also not exactly a fun process to have to go through either way. It wouldn't be completely far-fetched to suggest that the game's rather abrasive unfairness is entirely intentional. I mean, it doesn't go a full 5 minutes without referring to Jennifer as the unlucky girl. So, it'd at least be thematically sound, and from an artsy-fartsy standpoint, that idea is also quite interesting. Interesting, but not fun. It lacks contextual feedback, and it's also a frustrating piece of shit. You know how Silent Hill 4 has like really abhorrent combat and deliberately tedious level design, but then also a really amazing story and great atmosphere? Well, the reason that that approach works for the most part is because it manages to perform a very delicate balancing act, making sure that the good bits will always make you want to struggle through the bad, and that the bad bits are still designed in such a way where they aren't too frustrating and in turn only make you long for more good, thus keeping you interested. Rule of Rose doesn't do that. Not even fucking slightly. But for people like me that love the art, story, and music, that probably won't matter in the long run. So if you had multiple orgasms over the course of this video, then yeah, go for it, dude. It'll test your patience more than enough, but I don't think you'll regret playing it at all. In fact, I'm already thinking back about it fondly as we speak. Good luck actually fucking acquiring a copy though. As far as the NTSC versions go, it's pretty much ancient folklore at this point, and the PAL version, well... So if you don't want to be an idiot and spend your money like that,
Though it wasn't quite as expensive for me, but I guess I got lucky.
then your best bet is to emulate. Or if you want, you can even buy a Japanese version, which is considerably more affordable and for some reason also completely in English still. Which is a common theme among survival horror games of the time because I guess they thought it was cool or something.
Wow, what a mansion!